You're listening to the Shared Security Podcast with Tom Eston and Scott Wright, exploring the trust you put in people, apps, and technology.
Silent Pocket is a proud sponsor of the Shared Security Podcast. Silent Pocket offers a patented Faraday cage product line of phone cases, wallets, and bags that can block all wireless signals, which will make your devices instantly untrackable, unhackable, and undetectable. Use discount code SHAREDSECURITY to receive 15% off of your order. Visit silent-pocket.com to take advantage of this exclusive offer.
Hello, and welcome to the Shared Security Podcast, episode 81 for October 29th, 2018. I'm Scott Wright, the Streetwise Security Coach, and I'm here, as usual, with the ubiquitous Tom Eston. He's everywhere. Hey, Tom, how's it going everywhere?
I'm good. I'm here, and I'm in Cleveland, Ohio today, so my regular spot, yes.
Yeah, we know you were not in Cleveland earlier this week, or last week, so...
No. Yeah, the last 2 weeks I've been busy traveling for work. So I was in Boston 2 weeks ago, and then I was in London, England last week.
Awesome. Yeah. So how are things in London?
London's is great. It's a great city. Have you been?
Oh, yeah. I love it there. So we go back very soon if I could.
Yeah. They drive on the wrong side of the road, or as they would call us Northern Americans, the right side of the road.
Which is the left.
Which is the left. That's right. You got to be careful crossing the street.
Oh, I know. I did that once. We were there, I don't know, 20 years ago, and I was walking through, I think it was like the old town of York, and it's like very narrow, very small streets, and they still put a roundabout at the intersection, right? So you wouldn't expect it, but you're very close to everything. And as I'm about to cross the intersection, I look, of course, the wrong way and step out into the intersection, and this little car comes zipping around the corner away, and I'm going, whoa, just about lost it there. So, yeah.
They will take you out quick.
They will, for sure.
And, and when you're in the tube, always remember to mind the gap. Mind the gap.
Yes. Actually, where was I? Oh, somewhere visiting relatives, Newmarket, a place near Toronto. And remember, there's trying to cross the street there, and there was no crosswalk, but there was 2 double lanes and a median. Uh-huh. But you're trying to cross, and it says, wait for the gap.
Oh, interesting.
What does that mean? Well, I guess you got to wait for the gap in the traffic, and you just run across to the median, and then there's fences, so it forces you to wait for the gap on the other side to cross the 2 lanes. But I've never seen that. Wait for the gap.
Good times.
Anyways, let's get on to some of our serious business here, talking about
very serious,
security, our Shared Security Podcast. So what is on our agenda today, Tom?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about, I think, a couple topics that have been mentioned in the Weekly Blaze several months ago, but we'll first talk about Fortnite scams and how they are, I'd say, evolving. They're getting worse is the bottom line. Fortnite is the most popular video game in the world right now. Scott, I'm sure you've heard of it. In fact, Scott's on Fortnite all the time, actually. Little do you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell people what my avatar is, but you know.
Right. So we'll talk about that and what you need to know if you are a Fortnite player or know someone that is a Fortnite player.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like fun. And in addition to that,
we'll
bring you
Google's new privacy controls within search were announced. So I have some comments, and I'm sure you do as well, about Google privacy. Just always fun to talk about.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, just have to mention, I was at a little conference here in Ottawa where some people were there from our Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada. They're our old friends that keep us safe from the big scary tech monsters and how they abuse our information.
It would be good to have them on the podcast again. That was
We had them on episode 50, I think, or 51.
Yep.
Andrew, and I'm sure we can get somebody else on soon. And yeah, they're doing lots of cool stuff. They're now looking at the Internet of Things, which is very cool. So yeah, you're right. We should get them on the show.
Yeah, it would be good because I think privacy has obviously evolved since episode 50. Lots of things have happened, and it would be good to get the Canadian Privacy Commissioner's take on that.
Yeah, just a little tidbit I did pick up, and that is they're in their analyses of doing, the exchange of information between Internet of Things, smart devices. They are picking up lots of sort of intentionally collected information that you wouldn't expect. So that's interesting that they're uncovering that.
Very cool. Very cool.
So yeah. I'll make a note to reach out to them and see if we can get them on again soon.
Excellent.
And anything else we're going to discuss this episode?
And I think we wanted to touch on the China SuperMicro secret chip controversy, Bloomberg story, blah, blah, blah. All that in the news. I'm interested in Scott's take on that.
So. Well, so am I.
And Scott's interested in it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You come across lots of conversations with people about it, and you're not really sure what to believe. So
that's right.
What Tom tells us we should believe.
Well, not only me. I think lots of people have opinions. So,
all right, cool. All right, so that sounds like fun, and I guess maybe I'll talk about some of the stuff I'm doing at the end if we have time.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I think before we get started, I just wanted to let our audience know just to check out the last 2 episodes of the Weekly Blaze podcast, where we did something a little different, mainly because I was out of town and couldn't record during my travels. But we recorded 2 really awesome interviews. One with a gentleman named Patrick McNeil, and he is a physical security expert, and he gave us a lot of great tips and advice on hotel room privacy and security.
Absolutely.
So definitely,
that was a cool episode. I like that.
Yeah. Give that a listen. And then we just released episode 40 of the Weekly Blaze, which we have an interview with Jeff Tang, who is a senior security researcher at Cylance. And he talks about things that you need to know about spyware like mobile apps, and apps that may be spying or stalking you. So
yeah. Spyware's been around for a long time, and I guess it's sort of a cat and mouse game, as most security stuff is, right?
That's right.
Cool. Yeah, look forward to. I haven't caught that one yet, but I'll be listening to that later today.
Excellent. Yeah. So let's talk about Fortnite.
Fortnite. Yes.
Fortnite. Yeah. The Fortnite is interesting. So I have in full disclosure, I have a kid at home that plays Fortnite religiously. I think like most kids that are, teens, 13, 14 years old. It is extremely popular. In fact, it's so popular that they're estimated that they make about $300 million a month.
Holy.
And yeah, that's a lot of money. And they've made, I think, 1.2 billion since this new mode called Battle Royale came out in late September. So just to set the stage, this is a pretty big game, right?
Yeah.
So
makes me feel kind of modest saying that I work on games.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. See, there's a lot of potential there for games.
Yep.
Even ones you're working on, Scott.
True. Yeah.
Yes. So our friends at I don't know if anyone remembers, if you've been listening to the podcast for several years, we used to talk about these researchers at a company called Zero Fox.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, they released this research on Fortnite scams, and apparently there are close to 5,000 domains out there that are just dedicated to Fortnite scams. And there's about 1,300 YouTube videos that have malicious links that, people watch these videos, they click on links from these videos, and they get taken to phishing sites, malware downloads. I mean, you name it, all kinds of different scams. And like a lot of things that are popular, they're capitalizing on, well, the popularity of Fortnite and all the millions of people that are using or playing this game. But it's more of, these are kids playing the game, so I think they're taking advantage of the fact that kids are wanting to, they have a huge interest in Fortnite, but they've also are looking for ways to get free V-Bucks, which is basically the currency that you use within the video game.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a fascinating article. We'll have the link in the show notes, but a lot of these scams are around like Vcash generators. They're fake coupons in exchange for your personal information or your login details, credit card numbers, and of course the traditional ways of just having malware installed on your computer, all through these different types of scams. So it's something to definitely think about and be on the lookout for. One way to protect yourself, and is kind of a common theme, is the only way that you can purchase V-Bucks for Fortnite is through the Fortnite game itself. So you can't, go through a YouTube link or go through some other website to purchase these V-Bucks. They all go through the game. So it's in-game purchases, basically. So that's your number one way of defending against these attacks, is that if somebody is asking, for you to buy V-Bucks outside of the game, most likely it is a scam.
I mean, I just did a Google search on V-Bucks for free, and it's like
it's out of control.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's completely ridiculous. So so that's a lesson, just for yourself if you play Fortnite, but also educate your kids, because this is really popular with teenagers right now. So the more that we can educate them on just phishing and general security awareness like this, can go a long way.
Why don't we dig in for a second just on some of the sort of popular use cases? Like, how would someone get scammed into losing money through one of these V-Bucks scams? What kind of a thing might they be doing that would put them in that situation?
Well, like a lot of these scams are using social engineering techniques, right? So they are, enticing users of Fortnite. They might get an email, or they might see a social media post, a YouTube video. Again, that is probably one of the most popular attack vectors, because kids are looking for techniques. They're looking to, learn things about the Fortnite game. So they do searches within YouTube, and then these malicious videos pop up. And then they will entice them with, get free V-Bucks by signing up here, or putting your personal information on this website, or by downloading this program, you can generate your own V-Bucks, so to speak. So those are some of the attack vectors as someone might see, which would lead them to a Fortnite scam.
Interesting. Even though they say you can only get them from within the game.
That's correct. Yep.
So we really just have to reinforce that.
Yeah.
I guess, there's people would always imagine it's plausible that some company might do a partnership deal with the company. What's the company name that created
Epic Games?
Epic Games, yeah. So I guess, it's always possible to imagine that there could be partner promotions or something like that, where you could get something in that, through that mechanism. But I guess, until that happens, we just have to tell people you don't get them any other way than within the game.
That's right. And it's a common theme for most scams, even outside of Fortnite.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Well, let's make sure that our kids and adults that play
Fortnite
as well.
That's right. A lot of adults play Fortnite. I don't, but I know some that do. So
well, it's funny. It'll be interesting to see how long it stays around as a trend. Like, will it be gone in 6 months, or what happens? Right.
It will be interesting. Yeah, because there's always something new, right? Something else comes out and that becomes popular, and then, one game dies and another
yeah
comes up.
But it has been quite the wave. So
Edgewise Networks is the first zero-trust platform that stops data breaches by allowing only verified software to communicate in your cloud and data center. Micro-segmentation projects can be costly and difficult, but Edgewise offers a new approach: zero-trust segmentation. Without any changes to your network environment, Edgewise puts your data at the heart of your security strategy, giving you visibility into workload communication pathways, security policies built on the cryptographic fingerprint of the software, the ability to apply policies and segment your networks in one click, and a way to continuously monitor and assess risk. Edgewise recommends policies based on the identity of your software and stops attackers' lateral movements by requiring authentication and authorization with every workload communication. Visit edgewise.net to learn how Edgewise can eliminate network attack surface, stop lateral movement, and protect your applications.
All right. Well, what else can we chat about today?
Google, our friends Google. You know, I have a love-hate relationship with Google. I don't know if you do.
Sure. There's a lot to love and a lot to hate, right?
And what's funny or ironic, I don't know what you would call it, but we're actually using Google service. We're using Google Hangouts right now over YouTube Live to record this podcast. So as we are about to bash Google and their privacy policies and controls, I will disclose that we are using their technology on this show. So
only because it works better than anything else we've tried.
It actually does. So just because we use it doesn't mean that we fully agree with things that Google does.
Well, let's tell them why.
But let's tell them why, right? So, but to Google's credit, right, they do have a vast array of privacy controls. I don't know if Scott, you've ever checked out the there's an area within Google that you can go and see how Google uses your data. It's actually pretty fascinating. It's like a dashboard that they put together.
It's, I mean, as usual, user interface for these things change every few months, right? So I'm not even sure I was looking at the same thing that exists now, but you can, there's always a place where you can go to check out all of the apps, the properties that Google owns, basically, that shares data between themselves. So you can see really what they know about you, right?
That's right. Yeah. And now they are now releasing a way within Google search. So when you go to google.com, the first thing you see is that search box. Well, they're now going to add privacy controls to search itself. So from what I can tell from reading the article, it sounds like it will be on that Google search page where you'll be able to change certain types of settings, allowing essentially for more granular privacy controls around your Google searches, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people may not think that this is all that exciting or interesting, but really you have to think about it. The thing that I think caught my attention about this was probably 5 years ago or so. There was a TED Talk by Mikko Hyppinen, who is, I think, CTO of F-Secure, one of the big antivirus companies. I think he's out of Finland. Really interesting guy to listen to. He's got several TED Talks, but I think he made the quote that people are more honest with their search engine than they are with anybody else in their life. And when you think about it, right, what people search for, you don't always want people to know what they are searching for. So that's kind of where we're going, right? If Google has everything that you've ever typed in that you might have searched for, what could they make of that?
Yeah. And well, they do have, I mean, if all you've ever used is Google for your searches, I mean, they have all that data, including your IP address, and they have ways of correlating that data across other Google products. And as we've always said, and as we all know, is Google uses that information for ads to eventually serve you more ads in some way, shape, or form,
so that we can have good quality video conferencing.
That's right. That's right. That's how they make their money. So, but we to your point, Scott, we all have to really think about the power that a company that like Google has with all of this data. I always find it funny when you start typing for a search term, and Google brings up here's what other people have been searching on, and it's so fast that like how did Google know that that's what I was thinking? But
Yeah.
it's correlating all that data from millions of people and other types of and those searches. So
Or more often, who would be searching for that thing that you're suggesting that I might be
right,
searching for?
it's so weird. But and I know we mentioned on the show before about alternative search engines to Google. There's DuckDuckGo, which I think they have a better policy around privacy. They don't log data, things like that. I've mentioned another one that I like personally, which is called Start Page, and
Okay.
they will basically act as a proxy between you and Google. So you all your results come back as Google search results, but it scrubs basically and anonymizes all your data that you send to them. So your header information from your web browser, what type of web browser you're using, your IP address, all of that is essentially scraped and then sent on to Google,
Right.
and then it comes back to you,
What do you think
which is
Google would do if it? I mean, they must know all these searches coming from either one or very few points,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
What
yeah.
would they do to kind of dissuade you from using that service?
I don't
Give you
know. That's a good
all of these
question.
results. Throw in a bunch of random results.
It is interesting. Some of the results, I've done some comparisons through Start Page, and then I've done a regular Google search, and the results are very, very close. They're not exact, but they are very close. So there is something going on there in the background. I'm not quite sure what it is, but
Yeah.
the other thing too is I've noticed just over the last year or so, I've started to use DuckDuckGo as my primary
Yeah.
browser, and the search results have actually gotten a lot better, because that was always my one
Yeah.
complaint about these other search engines is they just don't have the results that you get from using
Yeah.
Google. They just don't
And I
have
think
the data.
I agree. I use DuckDuckGo a lot as well. And what I've seen actually is that DuckDuckGo is very visible in social media, right?
Yeah,
They're promoted tweets in a lot of Twitter feeds and Reddit and other places where I think there are a lot of people migrating there just because of their concerns about being tracked and the privacy issues. So, but I think they're doing a lot of smart things, and they seem to be well intentioned, and
I
we don't
agree.
have any reason yet to suspect that they're doing anything wrong. But it's interesting to see the dynamic between it's free and we're going to monetize it versus DuckDuckGo, which is free, and I think they have a business model that relies a lot more on business clients and the promoted tweets, right?
That's right. That's right. So, we'll see what happens with this. I think more privacy controls are a good thing, and Google is trying to get it, trying to be a little more transparent with those things. But ultimately, though, Google hasn't had, I'd say, the best track record when it comes to their privacy controls. We had talked about this on the Weekly Blaze several weeks ago, but they had done some privacy changes around location sharing. And even when you disabled the one setting, saying don't share my location, essentially your location was still being shared because it was still part of other Google
Yeah,
apps and services.
especially if you're using an Android phone, right, which is
Right.
more or less embedded with Google
It's
software that you can probably not turn off.
exactly. And so Google has almost become this really overcomplicated beast of services and just different apps that are all connected together somehow through all this internal Google, sharing of your data. And
Yeah.
it's a tough problem to solve when you have all of these different apps that are working together with your data.
Yep. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, Google's not going to go away anytime soon, I don't think. But There are definitely reasons to sort of be careful what you do there.
That's right. That's right. So the old adage goes back to, be careful what you're searching for. If you are concerned that Google or other third parties are accessing are collecting your data, using a VPN can help. Using Tor, using some other way of using the internet, with your privacy in mind is always the advice.
And if you're not concerned yet, but maybe in a week or so, just coincidentally, you all of a sudden have a really creepy feeling that you're seeing ads that are so terribly relevant or just, unsettling that somebody must have seen what you were searching for last week. That's probably why. So, that's when you might start thinking maybe I'd feel better using something that doesn't allow me to be tracked and shared my personal information that much.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm sure we could talk all day about Facebook and all that. We have talked about that all day on the podcast in the past. So
yeah, actually, that's true. We used to talk a lot more about Facebook.
They were like, we'd love to pick on Facebook, and we have quite a bit, and there's still lots to talk about almost every week. So we gotta spread the love to our other giant tech companies.
Exactly. Speaking of spreading the love, let's spread it to SuperMicro.
Oh boy. Yeah. So I'm sure everyone that's listening to the podcast knows about this one. This is the Bloomberg story that came out several weeks ago, saying that the Chinese have been installing essentially backdoored chips into all the major hardware, or all the major tech companies, essentially like Amazon and others, Apple being another big one, into motherboards, essentially from a company called SuperMicro. And these are obviously used in large data centers. And we're talking about, like, if this actually did happen, which is part of the controversy. Of course, Bloomberg says this did happen and we have credible sources, but pretty much the rest of the world is saying nope, including Apple and Amazon and others are refuting all of the, I'd say, so-called evidence that has come forward about this about this information. No one really knows what to believe. Recently, when Apple came out, Tim Cook, in fact, said that Bloomberg should retract the.
But that's not to say. So, I mean, you were asking what my thoughts would be on this. So, it's not to say that there isn't a risk in the supply chain, right, for hardware, especially when a lot of it is made in China, and China is known to, have being active in areas that tend to try to get intellectual property or eavesdrop and oppressive activities and stuff like that. So I think it's not out of the question that this could have happened. But like you said, there's not a lot of strong proof one way or the other. Something was on the boards. I guess there's a debate about whether or not what was there actually was actively doing anything or was programmed to do anything malicious. But there is the possibility, I guess, with something foreign being put on the circuit board that wasn't, contracted to be there. Then that's the risk, right? So I know within the government, Canada and the U.S. as well, their supply chains, especially for things like military and aerospace types of manufacturing, they're very concerned about the security of what goes in and comes out of the supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mentioned on the Weekly Blaze the other week, was the same type of commentary was, China has been known to do all kinds of things, including embedding malware into hardware in the past. So it's not that far of a stretch to think that they would do something like this. But again, I think it goes back to the evidence that Bloomberg is, trying to present about what happened, and basically the people that said this has happened, they're not coming out as very credible, and there's not a lot of solid evidence. There's no like smoking gun, right, that says this actually did happen or to prove it actually happened. So there's still a lot of speculation.
On the other hand, why would companies like Apple and Amazon deny it, that it was happening. I mean, even if it was happening, they might still deny it for publicity reasons or maybe other contractual reasons. Who knows, right? So that's what just muddies the water more. You really don't know. Just because somebody denies it doesn't mean that it, they're
That's true.
being truthful either. So yeah, it's a big mess.
It is. And of course, to follow the podcast and our social media feeds, we're always, I think sharing the latest news that we hear about it. And of course, you can always decide for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we're just here to keep you informed.
That's right. Oh, and give you our opinions.
And give you our more than anything.
Because you wouldn't listen to the podcast if you didn't like our opinions. So whether you agree with our opinions or not, well,
You want news, listen to the news channels, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, that's cool. So, I mean, those are the topics we were planning to discuss today. Anything else come to mind, Tom?
Yeah, Scott, did you want to talk a little bit about things that you're working on?
Things that I'm working on, yes. Well, it's probably not a secret anymore. People who are on my newsletter list probably know by now. I've been working for a long time on gamification and game-based learning. So just for people who don't know, though, my background as an engineer, I'm in my 50s, as you can tell. So I've been around for quite a while. So I worked a lot in engineering and spent several years doing security engineering types of things, and discovered that there's a lot of really good security technologies out there, but there's almost always a gap between the technologies and the people. And when I started worrying about this was about 10 years ago, and there wasn't a lot of demand from businesses for training on cybersecurity awareness. But over the last 5 to 10 years, there definitely has been an increase in that area, because that's become the weakest link. That's where a lot of attackers try to exploit people. So there's a lot more interest now and demand for cybersecurity training, and there are a lot of competitors in that area. So what I actually have been doing, I guess 10 years ago or so, I started building computer-based training programs, e-learning, basically, if you want to call it that, doing tailored programs for different businesses, government and private sector. And what has become obvious is that style of training is really not a lot of fun. And people have told me, believe it or not, that they don't enjoy doing that kind of training. So despite the fact that most of the businesses that I've worked with have been pretty happy with the programs, we do create the right level of understanding, but the basic problem is people do it once, right? They'll go through the training once, they'll do a quiz, they'll pass the quiz, and then they don't worry about it anymore. They just need to pass that quiz. And so when I started to think about it, we're talking about skills that people don't necessarily feel they were hired to know. It's not their job, right? But the business actually needs people to understand all of these things. They need them to understand, the awareness of what can happen in emails, what can happen in social engineering attacks, and even accidental threats, right? So all of these things are things that the businesses need people to know, but that the people are not motivated to do it. So they do the bare minimum when it comes time to do their compliance training. And that brought me a year or two ago to start really looking carefully at what we can do better. And what I've decided is that gamification or game-based learning is one of the keys. And it's funny, just this week, I came across an article by Dan Burrus, who I don't know if anybody's heard of, but he's a technical innovation futurist, I think they call him. So basically, he does a lot of thinking about what's coming in the future. And he wrote a big article recently about how gamification is actually going to be really important in educating us and keeping us up to date on things in general, not just threats, but how we learn in the future. I mean, how many of us have fitness trackers or cars that help us compete with others to save gas? All these things that are not a lot of fun to do by yourself, but when you start to compete with people and get a little bit more of an intrinsic reward on some of these things, it becomes definitely more effective. And so that's what I've been working on. And I have a new product called Click Armor, which is really a way to teach employees and any groups of people about cybersecurity. So we're going to be putting a lot of different areas, into the system where we've got incident response, email, accidental situations. People might be leaving passwords with yellow stickies, etc., on them. All these will be built into game modules that we have on this platform that is really going to be scalable and tailorable. So that means that it will be something that a business could pick up, like a baseline version of a game for a particular risk. And if the wording doesn't quite match what your workflows have, the terminology, then you'll be able to change that and make it more relevant to people. So all of a sudden, where it's very expensive to build custom video games, you need hundreds of people to build a custom game. We're starting from the platform level where we're creating simple building blocks that people can use to create the challenges and the scenarios that we want to test them on. And so I'm actually going to be speaking next week at B-Sides Ottawa on the difference between games and simulations, both of which we will be able to do within our platform. And we're going to talk about how games are more effective at teaching people, but that simulation is really a good way to assess what people know by putting them in a situation that is sort of predefined for them. So that's kind of where we're going. It's a lot of fun. It's very exciting. We've got quite a few people involved now. And I think hopefully in the next month or so, I'll have a lot more to announce on it that we can share and have a lot of fun with. But in the meantime, anybody who's interested can certainly reach out and chat with me.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the business. And I think it's well needed because I have taken some really bad security awareness training in my career. So
why
I
don't
would have
we
loved to have a game.
Ask anybody in the audience to tell us their worst story, their worst experience of how bad it can be to take computer-based training on cybersecurity. What's the worst?
Actually, yeah. If anybody that's listening wants to respond over social media or send Scott and I an email, we would love to hear that. I think that'd be great. A great discussion, like Absolutely. The worst of the worst. What's the worst security awareness training you've ever taken?
Exactly. Looking forward to hearing from people on that.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for allowing me to blab on about that. But hopefully people will find this interesting. And next time you take an awareness course, think about Click Armor. So
awesome.
Anyway, I think that's it. How can people reach out to us, Tom, on the social medias?
Yes, they can reach us at feedback@sharedsecurity.net over email. And of course, we are on all the social medias. So Shared Sec on Twitter, Shared Security on Facebook, where we're all over the place. So
absolutely. Good.
Yeah, on purpose.
Don't forget, on purpose. We're all over the place. So don't take it the wrong way. No. But so don't forget to listen to the weekly Shared Security Blaze put on by Tom, and does a great job of encapsulating the biggest stories of the week. And it's a great way to start your week, come out with some great knowledge that you can bestow on people throughout that week.
Yes, thank you. And we are back to the top 3 stories this week. If you have any feedback about the last few interviews that we did, please let us know. We might just start incorporating, still doing the news like we've always been doing, but the occasional kind of short, brief interview. If you like that format, let us know, and we'll definitely do more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, thanks a lot, Tom, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again in a month or so.
Take care, everyone.